5 now, so let's get started. A warm welcome to this event today. We are going to talking about how to unlock the power of AI. So I really hope it's going to be an exciting and giving session. If you have any questions, just let me know. I'm going to go to you, and you're going to have this microphone, so everyone hears, even the ones that are on stream. So let's get started. Who am I? Could be good to know as well. So my name is Maria. I work as CTO at Relative. And I'm not going to be the main number today. That is going to be Sasha, and I'm going to introduce him in a while. So just before we start, we are a company called Relative. We are a people success platform. And if you haven't heard of us, just wanted to mention very briefly that we have employee surveys. We have a tool for making objectives within an organization, like OKRs, for example. We document one-on-ones. And we have actually a brand new feature, which we celebrated last Friday. We just released a 360 feedback feature as well. So we are growing number of features, number of employees, and number of users. So that is a lot of fun. And just a small thing, Michael asked us to say something, what is good about working at Relative? And I actually asked during the lunchtime here just to see what are the main benefits, what are the good things. So one thing I got is that we actually eat our own dog food. Not sure if you've heard of that expression before, but that is, we actually do as we teach. So being an employee engagement platform means that we try to be a good employer as well. We try to use our own tools. We try to make things better, and we really want to have people that thrive within our company. And I think that is it for most of you. You agree? We have some people from Relative here as well. Another thing that is good to know is that we are scaling, and we are scaling quite heavily, both in number of users, in number of employees, and the number of features as well. So we actually, I think, beginning of 2022, I think we were around 30, and now we are around 80. So we are growing heavily, and we are also growing in number of users and number of countries as well. So if you want to be at Relative, you should like to scale, because that is what we are doing. Something that could also be good to know, we have 2 founders. They are both engineers. And something I really appreciate as a CTO is that we can have a balance between commercial requirements, but also to find a good balance with the technical depth. I think that is important. We have a modern JavaScript platform. We work with React front-end-wise, React Native, and we work with Node.js back-end-wise. And we are serverless, AWS environment, running Lambda functions. That is how we are built of. And then I would also like to say people are genuinely very, very kind, those we have employed. You agree, Paulina? You do agree. Good. So let's look into the agenda. We have a presentation now. Sasha is going to be the main number. You have 45 minutes. Let's see if you can keep the time. And after that, we are going to have some pizzas and some beer. And you can ask your questions during the presentation or during the meet and eat. That is fine as well. And then afterwards, we also have a Q&A session if there are even more questions. So that is the agenda. Let's go in then to introduce Sasha. We should have some music here, but we don't. So Sasha, who are you? Sasha Vincic? Is that how you pronounce it, Sasha?
Yeah, Sasha Vincic.
Yes. Sasha is, I think, one of our most senior developers at Relative. Been working, I think, for more than 25 years. Has some nicknames as well. We have Viking, we have Hulk. He really wants to learn new things all the time. And he wants to explore new things within technology. And now you have actually really gone mad about AI, I would say. Yeah. Working nights and days with that topic right now. So a warm welcome and a big applause to Sasha.
Thank you. Yes, my name is Sasha, and I will try to show you my experience with AI, what I have seen, what I think we can do and use it in our tools, and also how I use it at Elative. Some cases are actual cases, which I do daily, and some are on the to-do list. But before we start, how many use AI tools today? Oh, few, 1/3. Which ones? ChatGPT, Midjourney, Copilot. Okay. Do you use it at work or do you play? Play. Anyone work? Schoolwork? Good. I met a teacher the other day. He uses ChatGPT to plan the courses he has. So, okay. One more question. How many used AI tool before ChatGPT? 1, 2, 3, 4. Few at least. So not only ChatGPT reasons why you are here. Okay, so I will try to tell you about the power of AI from my point of view. If you're following the AI sphere now, you can see a lot of use cases, and most of them are the same: playing, learning, and so on. But I will show you some powers I have seen and how I think it's beneficial for me, and also what I think the next generation developer needs to do or have to be a next generation developer. But before we start, some history. 1950, that's more than 70 years ago, Alan Turing created the Turing test to verify if you're a machine or a human, a simple test. 47 years later, we have Deep Blue, which beat Garry Kasparov in chess, which was amazing because that was never been done before, a machine beating a master, a human in chess. 20 years later, AlphaGo from Google beat the champion master in Go, which is considered an even harder game for a computer to play. The fun thing about AlphaGo is that AI taught itself to play Go in 4 hours and then beat the master in human. So that was 2017. Then 2 years later, we have an AI that learned to play a computer game called StarCraft, which is a strategic game and has a lot of variables and was considered like really hard for a machine to learn to play. But it managed to become a grandmaster level, which is a high level in that game. 1 year later, OpenAI released GPT-3. And 2020, ChatGPT came, which is an optimized version of ChatGPT for interaction, for chat, and having that type of discussion with an AI. So you see the timeline here. So what's going to happen this year? Well, if you've been following, you realize that a lot of things has happened just the last 2 weeks. So I had to add this slide yesterday, because in February, Bing released a new version with ChatGPT, so you can ask questions, Bing, and get the answers based on search results. And March of 13, we got GPT-4, still just on waiting list, but it's 10 times or even more bigger than ChatGPT 3. And much better. 1 day later, Google announced AI for Workspace, and then Microsoft announced Copilot for their suite Office. So you have an AI in the tools, right? Suggesting emails, helping you in Excel or PowerPoint, whatever. And Google announced Bard, which is a ChatGPT competitor, the AI, which you can use through APIs. And 4 days ago, we have GPT-4 plugins, which is ChatGPT plugins. And what that means that you can connect ChatGPT to anything on internet, and it can learn to use it and use it to whatever you want. And if you haven't seen any examples, Google them, and they are really, really amazing. So what's going to happen tomorrow, I'm not sure, but I know it will be something really, really, really cool. Has anyone got access to GPT-4 and plugins here? Nope. GPT-4 you have if you use the free version, but without plugins. So enough of talk, and show me the code. Does anyone know who said that? Whose quote is this? Talk is cheap, show me the code. No. Not ChatGPT. Linus Torvald. So now I will show you some examples of how I use AI, how I've used AI, and how I will use AI in my work and my co-workers' work. So we'll start with writing and explaining code. Those who have used ChatGPT for programming and Copilot for programming will recognize this. But this is Copilot in Emacs, which I use as my editor. And it's a fictive example. I just made it up. We will create a function that fetches Food Cafe events and then do something with them. So, and what you see here is everything that's gray, that's Copilot showing me code. And as soon as it becomes colored, I have accepted it. And as you see, when I type wrong, that's me typing. Everything else is Copilot. So I start with defining a function name, describing what it should do. And when Copilot then has read it, thought, it will start trying to suggest code that I can use. And that means that when you're using Copilot, more you use, the better the auto-completion becomes. The better name you have on function, variables, types, the better auto-completion will become, which means that it goes much faster. So the whole function here is only tab. I only press tab and accept the code. The code may not be the best or beautiful code that I would have written or maybe even committed for a pull request, but it looks to work. And now when we have this first function, we can start defining next function. And now we'll see that as soon as I start typing the name of the function, it already guesses what I want and auto-completes the whole function with one tab. So you can see how faster it goes to program when Copilot suggests the correct things. In this case, I accept almost everything, but it's gonna take a while before you are on the level where you get a Copilot suggesting or an AI exactly the code you would commit in your name. But you see, it's really, really powerful. But you still have to know how to program to know if the code it suggests is correct or good enough or so and so on. So it's not, I don't suggest using Copilot if you are new to programming, even if my son is using ChatGPT for programming. So as long as the code works, he copy-pastes it, runs it, and as long as it runs, it works. But as soon as there is an error, he comes to me or he asks ChatGPT to fix the error. So it's a hard process. So this is example of how I use Copilot daily. I have it always enabled in everything I do in Emacs. So it suggests code and text that I write. And it's becoming, I have had goosebumps for 5 months every day from the experience using Copilot. So that's how amazing I think it is. And Copilot X is now released, which is going to be even better. Yes? I pay for it. Yes. Yeah. Well, we have it now on Maria's credit card, but I paid for it. I didn't wait. It's that's how good I become so much productive, and I will show you other use cases where it's even better to use. So in this case, we saw the long function, which was very verbose, and if you don't understand everything it suggested, it can be quite hard to read. So what I did was I selected that function, and I prompted it, explain what this code does. This is Copilot still. And it tells me, explains for me, what does this code do, and in human language. And I use this a lot when I read SQL, because SQL is something of my Achilles heel. Reading it is hard, and writing is even harder. But having a Copilot that can explain to me every time I get stuck, so I don't get stuck anymore.
Is Copilot also using Is Copilot also using GPT-3? Or
so yes, so Copilot is, so the question is Copilot using GPT-3? And yes, so Copilot is GPT-3 trained on GitHub code. And you can get access, or you could, they are removing it now from OpenAI. They had a model called Codex, which was Copilot. But they're removing it, and you can only get access by buying Copilot X. So it is, but trained more on code. And that also the auto-completion, if you train it and you teach it how your code looks, it becomes better and better and better. So explaining code, doesn't matter if you sit late in the night or early in the morning when your coworkers are asleep and the one who has the knowledge is not there. You just can ask Copilot and you can continue working. So this is something that I use every day now and been using it. So powers used here, you have a pair programmer that's always there, answers fast, and questions about the code, what you should write code, and it doesn't only like a normal pair program tell you what you should write, it writes the code for you. So it's really, really powerful.
Question.
Yes?
The first function you had, where it fetches the Fucafe.
Yes?
Did you give it the URL through the RSS, or did it find it based on something?
So the question is on the first function, if I gave it the URL or if Copilot found it, it found it. Because Copilot is trained on GPT-3, which is trained on internet, and is trained on the GitHub code. And somewhere in that code, there was a RSS link to many pages. And if it has read anything about Fucafe, it probably knew what kind of CMS that had and so on. I didn't verify it if it was correct.
So if there was another Fucafe somewhere else?
It could have been wrong, yeah. So I didn't verify in this case when I recorded this if the URL was correct. So that's the first powers. Another power, talk to your code. When you are a new developer or you're part of a team like we at Relative, when I joined, we were 5 people. I was the first developer in Sweden. Now we are 80 more people and we have 15 developers, and the code base is growing. And usually when you search in your code, when you're new or even like me, old in the you don't know what's everyone has written and keep up everything. So when you try to find something, you use search, and in best case you can use regex to find something in your code. But then you still need to know the name of the variable, or at least guess what the names are when you're trying to search. But what if you could just talk to your code and ask it, how do we do this, and what kind of types do we have for this, and so on, and the code answers back. And I started writing an AI tool for doing this. Then I found this one, bloop.ai, open source tool, which you can download and point it to your repository, and it will index the code locally, and then every time you have a question, it will go to the OpenAI with the question to be able to find the answer. And what can you do with it? So I can ask it, how do I set up a dev environment if I'm a new developer? It will look at the information that you have in the repository, and it will tell you in human language how you should do it. We have a question.
Yes, we have a question. So I just wanted to read it as well. It's from Christopher Samuelsson. Won't you maybe proprietary code be sent to OpenAI for processing when you use Copilot?
So the question is if we send code or stuff that we shouldn't send to OpenAI or to Copilot in this case, and you send code to the Copilot. It sends the context it is in right now. But when you sign up for it, you decide, you tell it what it's allowed to do with that code and so on. But you still have to have permission from your employer what you are sending, and be careful what you are sending. So you should not have a Copilot open when you're reading something sensitive in your Visual Studio or Visual Code and so on. So you have to be careful when it comes to that. But that's the same thing you have to think about whatever you do on internet, when what you are pasting or sending to whatever API, even if the license and everything is okay. You have to be careful. Back to this one. Show your how the example for test code. So you're writing a test, you need something, you can be more specific, and the tool, this Bloop, can generate based on your code in your repository, generate examples of answers. So what it does, it looks up in the code, takes few examples, sends it to OpenAI with the question, and then you get back the answer. So when you can talk to your code, you can find things that otherwise are very, very hidden and hard to find, and or you just forgot, or you just don't know how many places. You can ask it. Okay, like in our case, we have surveys, so we have question types. I can ask it which question types do we have. It lists the question types. It shows me code, where is it defined, and I can then ask, okay, show me the code where this type of question is used, and it can show me the code. I don't have to find all the, I can use Studio, find all references for a type, but with talking to code, you find even the references that are not connected to the type, because it understands that this code is using this type. Semantic search, you can ask it, search, and it will find the meaning for what you're searching. And you can get examples. You can ask it, how do I do this in our code? And it will show you examples and point you to the places in the code.
Does it write code?
No, this tool doesn't write code. So here, now we will show you a transformation of code with ChatGPT. This is an old example, which I haven't rewritten, but it's a nice example where I tell ChatGPT to help me to rewrite some old code. So here we have an old class component in React that we want to rewrite to functional components, because we have decided that today we write all components as functions instead of classes. So I ask it, can we rewrite this component as functional component? And this is what ChatGPT gives me. it gives me the code and explanation. What the code does, why it chose what it chose, and so on. And this is what my 12-year-old son is using. Not to rewrite code, but write code. He just tells it, I want this, and spits out code. He doesn't understand what the code means, but this explains, and he can understand it a little bit. So learning programming is going to be much simpler for him than the C++ book I had to read when I started. But now we got a function. It looks to work, but it doesn't follow all the guidelines we have. So I tell it to remove prop types and use state because it's not needed, and it spits out a new version. So here's the prompt I wrote, and this is the output. So now we have a functional component that's clean, looks to work, and I could have just committed it because the class component should have a test, and if the test still passes, I can just commit it and it's done.
In your point, you say there is no. Sorry.
A question about the prompt that you give, that you write, there is no need. I mean, does that have a function in teaching it, or
Which one?
In your prompt, you say don't use prop types and use state, and then you say there is no need. Is that to be polite so the computer doesn't get mad at you, or?
So the question is,
does it have an educative function?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
The question is if I'm polite or there is something needed to write there is no need here. One, I try to be polite. I don't like to be angry. But so in this case, I don't know if it did help, but GPT can reason. So it will understand what it means, and in some reasoning, it will figure out, okay, yeah, it's not needed, then I can rewrite it this way. So it could help. Yeah, it could have an effect.
And we also want to talk with like humans, like we talk to humans.
Yeah, it's easier because otherwise you have to learn how to talk to the AI some special way, and that's the disadvantage for AIs until now. You have had to write in specific way, tell it in specific way to get it to do what you want. Now you can just talk normally, like you talk to your coworker. But in our guidelines, we also use TypeScript. So from going from class to a functional component in TypeScript, I prompt it, can you rewrite the function in TypeScript? And I get a function that follows the TypeScript guidelines. So now it is following all the guidelines, and I can commit it, which means that if you write a script, looks up all the class components in your big technical depth repository, you ask it to rewrite them, and everything that has passing test, you can just commit. Because I guess everyone has 100% test coverage, right?
Yes.
Yeah, good. That's what we have also, so we can do this. Hector, can we? Yeah, definitely. Okay, so you see the potential. Like technical depth, you can automate away by having a virtual programmer that understands what you want to do. You don't have to do cumbersome code rewriting code to be able to find all the patterns and so on. You can just push it through someone who understands what you want to do. You show it how the code should look like to follow the guidelines, and it spits out. And if you have enough tests, you commit that, and whatever doesn't pass the test, you have a human to fix the tests, and then you can commit. So the powers here, automatic rewriting is really, really powerful. You can do that in Copilot. The example here was ChatGPT. So in Copilot, you can just select code and tell it a prompt, what you want to do. It will rewrite, find a bug, rewrite, fix it, so on, and it will do it for you. Interactivity here, so the steps is also something like you can explore and learn by doing this rewriting or creation of code. It's also a powerful thing to, which I think is very powerful. Because me, 25 years, and now for 5 months I've been learning new things, not just having auto-completion, because I can type fast most of the code, but learning new things. You can do this, and so on, is also really, really powerful.
Another question about the code that you.
Yeah, you can say, I can repeat.
I can handle it. The naming of variables is the way I sort of see the patterns in the code that you've shown us. Variables have a name that relate to the function or the explanation that you've given. Where do that you must have in your own code before you started feeding it into AI had a naming convention or something that was possible to decipher as relating to something. How does will this change the way people name their variables? What do you think?
Hopefully they will have some good names now, because the better you explain what the name, the thing you're naming in the name, the better the AI can understand what you're trying to do. So if you have a function with just one letter of variables, yeah, it can reason probably what the variables are containing from the types and so on. But if you also have a name, it will understand much more, the same way as a human reads the code. When you read a function that you see first time, if there are good names, good typing, you quickly can scan and understand what this function is about. And so the naming is from reasoning. And if you have good naming, the better reasoning from the AI.
And you can also generate, use descriptive functions, names, and reply and compile. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, you can instruct it if you want descriptive or you want shorter and so on. So yeah, it will try. So it's also, at least the naming examples I've seen so far are good from the AI. The code may not be the best all the time. So this was few examples of coding, and beside using tools, I'm also trying to get Relative to use AI everywhere we think it's useful, and to be able to do that, building own AI using the OpenAI APIs. And few goals for this AI is to have a coworker, virtual coworker like Copilot for programming, but a coworker that knows everything at Relative. You can ask any question. So if we have grown from 5 people to 80 people in 4 years that I've been there, you can imagine how many questions and the same question we have got every time we employed someone. This can the AI answer. And the cool thing by using GPT is that you can have all the knowledge or the information documentation in English, and but the employees can use any language they understand and GPT understand, and it will reply in the same language. So suddenly you have all the documentation available in many languages. It's available. You don't have to wait for your coworker to finish the meeting or have time for you. You can just ask the questions. And it's always learning, which means that every time someone else updates the documentation, the knowledge is available for everyone. So there is no more searching for the correct document in the correct folder in SharePoint. You just ask it and you get an answer back with a link to the document. And so there are companies who are multi-million companies doing this as a service, and today you can do it yourself with few API. Yes. Yes, please.
So I guess most of us are using Atlassian for this, like for documentation and everything. Are you using something else that is a bit more easy to integrate with AI?
No.
Or- No, okay.
No, we don't use anything that's easier to integrate with AI, but we are trying to make the information as easy as possible available for the AI, at the same time as easy as possible to maintain for the human. So it is like a trade-off there, where to put it. Is it SharePoint, which we use mostly? Then okay, that's how we edit it. Then let's make some scripts to export it out of there and put it into the AI. So it's a trade-off to like, it has to be easy to maintain, otherwise it will not be maintained and becomes obsolete. And it should be easy for the AI to be updated every time it is updated. So it is a trade-off.
Yeah, so I'm guessing you need, like, one of the problems I've seen when I've tried like Bing Chat, for instance, and it's very good at giving wrong answers. So how do you know that it's not hallucinating things? That it's just making stuff up, basically.
So that's ChatGPT until GPT-4. I haven't played with 4, but it should be better. But that's the AI can reason, but it cannot reason what is correct or wrong. The knowledge about what is correct and null, that's up to the user of the AI. So if you are looking using AI to learn something new that you have no knowledge about, you have to fact check it like anything else on internet. Because the knowledge of this AI is based on internet. And if you are expert in your area, a programmer, senior programmer using Copilot, you will quickly learn how to use it and what to ignore. And the same applies if you use it for creating text or reading text or making understanding of text. And in Bing's using it to find information and answers to on the internet, you have to always fact check it. Or build your own AI that you instruct to not hallucinate, to tell, I don't know, because the information you provided doesn't give the answer to your question. So it should not use the whole internet for its guessing or making up answers. So you have to prompt it the way you want it to behave.
So when you say you have to prompt it, is it a bit like, you know, the first times you might have used a search engine or Google, you have to ask or search for something the right way in order to find the result. If you look for Berlin, you might get a city, a cookie, Irving Berlin, who's a musician. So would you say that learning how to prompt has it been difficult for you, or did it come naturally?
It's still difficult. It's still exploring state, and following all these lists with amazing prompts is a way to learn. But that's something you have to learn depending on which model you use, like GPT-3, GPT-4, or you use the API or ChatGPT, which ChatGPT before 4 was GPT 3.5. So depending the models, you have to prompt them differently. And this is an exploration. And that's why there is now a new work title, prompt engineer. There is companies selling prompts today, which are there for help you. So that's still early. Everyone is learning right now how to do it. And when you become good, or you find a good prompt, you will get amazing results. like goosebumps on steroids. So that's still exploring, but we can also, like I said, smooth onboarding. You have a virtual colleague, and it can also answer any questions we have at Elative, or it should at least. And we can also use it to automate tasks that now AI can do. Why should we do it? Spend time on that. We need to scale both organization and code, and we don't have time to do tasks that can be automated. So that's what I'm playing, and prompting here is really, really the hard part, and providing enough data, because the bottleneck for these AIs is how much data context you can provide it with the question. ChatGPT 3 was 4,000 tokens, which is more or less 4,000 words. ChatGPT 4 is 25,000 tokens. So now we're going to be able to provide a lot of context to base the answers or whatever we want to do, create code or.
So 25,000 tokens, if we are using it to index our code base. So ChatGPT uses 25,000
GPT-4.
4, sorry, yeah, tokens. If we use it to index our base code and then solve problems based on our code, are we limited to also 25,000 tokens from our code?
Per every time you ask a question,
Okay.
you can provide 25,000 of tokens of context, or at least 25,000 minus the tokens you want in the answer. So if you ask it to generate a big function, which requires 1,500 or 1,000 tokens, well, then you have 24,000 tokens of code you can provide it to as a base. Look at this, create this, please.
Yeah, so it's not per training data set.
No, it's just per question. Per task, per prompt that you have 25,000 tokens. And it's the total tokens you have by sending and receiving the answer. So the total can be 25,000. And that's really, really, that's 6 times more than GPT-3. And GPT-3, 4,000 tokens is a lot. Another question?
Just a curious and speculative question, but what's your view on when, well, let's say ChatGPT or AI can go in and modify the source code to actually improve things? I mean, not just replicate and copy, but rather go into the existing code and rewrite it and make it even better.
It can do it today. Depends on your prompt. It depends what you want to improve. You can prompt it to rewrite a function to use less if statements, or if you want to have like you can do it already today, and the thing you need to provide it if you have good examples, like otherwise it's general and it's going to, but it will try to comply to your prompt.
To rephrase, I think that what I mean is, if let's say you have a program of 20,000 rows or whatever, instead of typing it up as a copy or a clone and making it even better, it would do that real time, like go through the code and just make it even better, and not. Yeah, basically, that's what I'm asking. What's your view on when it could come there?
When it comes, like removing the developer for some tasks, it can do it already. It depends on your prompting and your code that you use it as like showing what it should do. It can do that already. And with 25,000 tokens, you can have it get a lot of code. If you have functions that are that big, you have other issues. But you can ask it to rewrite them in smaller functions, and you can do it live. You can instruct it, or you can build your own AI that like pulls in not just the code file you have opened, but everything you have imported, and use that as a base to your question or to your auto completion. Because today Copilot only looks on the file that you are working in, and whatever you just opened and it had read. So because it has the 4,000 token limit. So as it forgets everything that's about and pushes in new things. So like you saw in the example Fou Café, I had the type defined on the top. And since everything was less than 4,000 token, it had the knowledge about everything. So it depends about the knowledge, what it can do, what kind of magic it can create.
But writing a script that takes parts of your code, I mean, continuously, like even if it's, I don't know, a tool that exactly is continuously improvements. I mean, we have continuous integration. Yeah. Having an AI that can continuously try and improve the code base, your whole repository, even if it's not here today, it's going to be really soon because it just, you can have a script that takes out parts of your code all the time, and can you improve it, pushes it back and tests if it still works. And then you just need the final go, yeah, this change seems good, not that one, right? It's a no-brainer, it's going to happen pretty quick, and you probably can write it yourself. There were more than 200 AI-based tools released last week.
So one way it's you can see examples on GitHub. There is projects where you have ChatGPT doing automatic code review and suggesting improvements for the PR merge request you have created. And if you like trust the suggestions, you can just automate that. So it is close, but it's about prompting, and it's about what kind of. You can't just prompt it, improve it. Well, then it can do whatever it wants, and it may be not the improvement that you wanted. So you have to be specific on the prompting.
I think we have one more question from the streaming. So I think it's from Emma. Do you have any knowledge of the amount of security flaws in code made by AI?
I have heard that there are more, but it's still a human who commits the code. And if you have bad review process or things like that, I don't think there is any more security flaws created by the AI. It's just that you don't have enough testing to catch them, and most of our issues we catch by having tests, or we have good review process. And so if you let the AI create code and then review itself with another prompt, you should be able to catch most of the bugs it creates by itself. And this cartoon here is a good example. Like, there is examples where you put ChatGPT, you tell it, here's an API documentation. Please write code that does this. And it tries, fails, gets errors, and tries again. Reads the errors, tries again, and 5 tries, and it works. And you just watch, and it takes a few seconds for it to learn how to use an API and write the code you wanted. And the same thing if you prompt it correctly with security or whatever guidelines you have or things like that, you should be able to catch it most. But if you just blindly accept like the first function we have, then it's going to be hard. Instead of writing code, you will be debugging or reviewing code rest of your life.
Sasha,
Yeah.
I just want to add a few keywords to the question about improving code base or rewriting. Things like reducing complexity, improving readability, improving performance of the code. So just a few keywords we can think about when we say improving our code base.
Yeah, so the prompting is really like, what's improvement here? Is it speed? Is it readability, complexity, and so on? You have already, you already have in Copilot or in Visual Code just extract this part into a new function. Now you can just tell ChatGPT, make this function less complex, and it will guess what part should be extracted and so on. But AI is still machine learning at the bottom, pattern looking and so on. So if you put in bad code, you will get bad code out. Simple as that. So we've seen a few powers, and what I think we can do with these powers is not become twice good as we are. We can become 10 times, we can learn 10 times more. We can use that knowledge 10 times better and complete tasks 10 times more. And totally, that's more than 10 times. So the layoffs from the big companies may be an indication, because they are from Microsoft, Facebook, or Meta, and Google, and they all have AI. So it's not just new economical, what do you say, reality. It's also new way to do things. That's my opinion, at least, from my experience.
Which AI did you use for the line at the bottom?
The line at the bottom? This one? Myself.
How much is 10 times 10 times 10?
Plus 10. So you see, humans are not perfect. And we will, and AIs are taught by us, by programmers by us, and they have a lot of flaws. The difference between humans and AIs is that when you teach an AI, it goes much faster, and it can then use the knowledge faster and so on. If I learn something, I still have to teach all my colleagues to be able to utilize the same knowledge everywhere. But in the AI, you have to teach one and everyone. So let's say self-driving cars, Tesla. Every time a Tesla is in a crash, that accident will not happen in all the other Tesla cars, because the AI has learned what it made a mistake, if there was a mistake, and it's updated. If I crash my car, then next time maybe I will not crash, but everyone else can still make the mistakes.
I'm not going to discuss self-driving cars, but what if whoever is teaching the AI is feeding it nonsense? I assume garbage in is going to be garbage out times 10 times 10 times 10.
Yes.
So how do you prevent that?
By having people who are working with AI being responsible and making sure there are security in place. Like OpenAI was founded just for this, but it's not that today. So it was founded as a non-profit OpenAI Foundation to just keep that being able to teach everyone how to not do things with AI. But today it's mainly owned by Microsoft and controlled by Microsoft. So they own everything that's there, and it's closed. You don't see what it's there except if it leaks.
3 more minutes.
Okay.
Just regarding what you said, there was somebody who trained an AI to write QAnon posts, like shit posts, where they have just fed a bunch of threads from the forum, and eventually it could just pump out a bunch of similar shit posts. A little like you said, shit comes in, shit comes out.
Yeah, it's not hard, and the early failures with AI have been that, and but most people are good. Most people try to do good things, but like we see on internet, there is a lot of bullshit, a lot of nonsense. So we shouldn't be surprised if the AI make that nonsense 1,000 times bigger, but it will also make the good parts 1,000 times better and bigger. And the good parts are still bigger. It's just the algorithms that make us think that everything is bad, or depending which bubble you are in. So it's about choosing the bubble you want to be in. And my bubble is AI doing amazing things right now. I don't see a lot of the nonsense things. 1 minute. So we can, this is something that a lot of people think right now. I, as a programmer, can use ChatGPT to do all my work. I, as an entrepreneur, don't need to hire anyone. I can do it myself, and the client at the end thinks they can do it themselves. Like I said, it's easy to get started. My 12-year-old son is exploring the possibilities and learning programming. He's using ChatGPT to do Blender things in Blender, 3D modeling, and really amazing stuff. That was really hard for before. Now it just spits out some code and copy paste, and then you can continue from there. As soon as he's stuck, he just asks a question, and he can speak any language. It doesn't matter. So it's easy to get far, but there is a lot of nonsense coming out still. Because this is based on the internet. If you don't know what to query, you will get results that may not what you want. So you need to be critical of what you get, or understand what you want. But it's the same thing when you're trying to teach someone, a colleague, to do something. You give information, you take information, and then you iterate over and over and over. So I have a few more, but we will have some pizza now, and then we continue. Cool. Thanks. I thought it was good. So now you got many ideas what we can use AI, or at least what I have been using it. Now I will scare you a little bit what AI can do. So about our jobs, will we have them, or will AI take them? What do you think? No? Is one short answer? Yes. Why? In time? Why?
I see no reason not to. Why should we keep on doing jobs that AI can do for us? We can tend to our gardens.
Yeah, if the AI can do our jobs, then we will be jobless.
No, but I guess that in time there will be wealth generated by AI in a sense where maybe universal basic income will be a thing that we can write code if we want to. I think this is many years ahead. I don't think we're close to it.
No. What do you say? Star Trek economy. No. Yeah, AI probably will not take our jobs, but some will lose jobs because of AI. And one of the reasons I think that is that if you don't use AI for your work, that you don't use the tools that are available for your work to become a better at your work, then you will lose against the one who is using the tools that are available. And it doesn't matter if it's AI or whatever. Like if you want to become good at your work, then you use the best tools. That is why the question, did I pay for ChatGPT or Copilot? Yeah, the second I tried it, I paid it. I didn't ask my manager for, can I have it? Because I would lose a lot of time before I got the answer. And instead I can show what it can do and then ask for the manager. So you should always try to become better by using the tools that are good and learn the tools. It doesn't matter if you use Visual Code or Emacs like me. Learn whatever tool you use and become master of the tool. And now AI is an addition to that, which we need to first learn, explore, and then master it so it can help us. Otherwise it will just be annoying thing. And so that's something that I struggle with, like how, because reading the internet is like, oh, I missed that, I missed that, I missed that. There is like 200 new tools last week that I want to try. And I can't master all of them. First, they are just new tools. They have learned as much as I have, in best case a little bit more. So they're not perfect. And then the iteration starts. But it is a race. And the main part here is to learn new things. And this time it feels like, at least for me, that I'm surfing the wave of AI. I caught it and now I'm trying to learn. As soon as I don't learn enough, it feels like it's slipping away. So that's a little bit frustrating, but it's fun. It's really, really fun. So another way to say it, I say like the internal tool. Some people ask me, colleagues, will I lose my job? Well, if you don't find something else to do, if the AI does your job, then yeah, but you have to the choice. I can automate you, or you can automate yourself. If you automate yourself, then you can choose what you want to do and be better on whatever is not automated task. Because if you spend your working hours doing tasks that someone else can do in 2 seconds, that's waste of time. So mastering the tools is important, and if you can use the AI and it can help you, it's going to be a real nice ride. Are you going to use AI tools at your job tomorrow?
Wish I could.
Wish you could. Why can't you?
Because we can't leak any data at all. We have to turn off all telemetry on all tools.
That's boring.
That's a government job for you.
Yeah. Well, I had this discussion like about what you leak. It's important you don't leak stuff, but as a programmer, code is like when you write code. I've been working a lot with open source, and code is nothing you don't invent. It's nothing like, oh, you win a Nobel Prize for some piece of code. So leaking code is maybe not good, but it's not like a programmer cannot invent the code. It's not something really. But if you have data, information, which you probably most of the time don't need to expose to the AI, that you need to be careful. Then you should choose AIs that you can run locally. And there is open source versions where you can run GPT locally on my, I tried it on my MacBook. And it's not as fast, but you can. And it's not as good. But if you buy the biggest Mac or a Threadripper with some 4090 RTX graphic cards, then you have a machine there you can run almost anything on. Not maybe the biggest GPT-4 model, but not far away. And you can explore. And then when you're like, okay, this is how we can use it, then you can make ways to use the big ones without leaking the secret information.
I think it's really important to say that, I mean, you need to do these things with care as well.
Yeah.
I mean, even for us, it's extremely important that we don't leak any data, for example. So you always need to think, and you need to be careful. As Sasha says, code is usually not that sensitive, but data is. So that is where you need to be careful.
But I guess even in a government job, you're allowed to hold a general conversation about code, and you can do that with ChatGPT.
Yeah,
If
well,
you're trying to implement a new concept and you don't really know how to do it, then you can have that conversation with ChatGPT and get good suggestions how to do that.
there are like data is sensitive and important to not leak. That's really, really important. Doesn't matter where you work, what kind of job. And then, of course, be careful. Like you have both juristical reasons and practical, competitor or whatever reason there is to think about what should be where. And then you have the competition reason, like, okay, we are not allowed to use this and this and this, but our competitor is doing. Okay, so what will happen? That's simple mathematics. What will happen? Someone will run much faster than you. And so you have all these things to consider. What is worth, what can I share, what can't I share, and so on. Yeah, yeah. You need to decide what you're allowed to use and so on. So when I work, I'm really, really careful with what I have on my computer. So I don't allow myself to make mistakes, or at least I make it hard to make mistakes. That's what I try. And okay. Quick enough. Okay. Yeah. Well, a lot of the idea to think about jobs, but to become better at your job, never be satisfied with the tools you have. Always try to improve. And if you want to see some behind the scenes for how this presentation was made, this is the text from Foo Cafe, which you probably have seen, also generated by ChatGPT. And here I mark the introduction, and I prompt it to create slides. And when it creates slides, I accept them, and then I iterate over and over and over again. So in this case, I take the slides, I save them, and then I go to the first slide, and I select it. And I also select the part about me. And this is the red one, is what is sent to ChatGPT. And I prompt it. Please create another slide about me. And over and over. And it creates the slide. And then I just copy paste it to PowerPoint and go to Midjourney to get some images. So everything you have seen in the slides has been generated, except the mathematical one. That's one that was mine. So this is how you can use it for writing documentation or presentations.
And also, ChatGPT can make the same math mistake.
Yeah. It can. Yeah, you can, like, it can tell you whatever you want it to tell you. So, but that's really what I had for today. And if you have any more questions, I have at least one that's on that I got between the breaks. So the question was, can you use ChatGPT for architectural questions? And the answer is yes. You can ask it to get ideas and interact with it, how you should make a decision and why. And then it's still up to you to verify that the answers you get are correct. One case I have been using it, I was writing architectural documentation, and I just told it, this is how we have done it, implemented, please write documentation about it. And I got it, and then iterated.
I think that is a very good thing for Sasha, because he doesn't like documentation. So, perfect way of automating.
Yeah. So you can use it for almost anything that you can ask a human, but it's still about prompting and verifying that it's correct. And the prompting, how you prompt it, is how big chance you have to make it, to do what you want.
Good. Any other questions?
These tools, are they good at reducing the amount of code you have, like condensing, generalizing?
I haven't used it much for that, but I hope. That's one of ways to improve code, but then you need to be able to push in a lot of code to get something, enough context. And maybe now with GPT-4, we will be able to do that. But so far, I haven't played because I thought the 4,000 tokens were too little to do these type of experiments.
Yeah. Examples that you see are usually around production, not reduction.
Yeah, so you had said before that you wanted to use it for like analyzing documentation. Is that was
summarizing or analyzing documentation, so you can ask questions. So yes.
Exactly. So, and then would you use their APIs to, because you have the 4,000 token limit.
Yeah.
So obviously you can't just give it your SharePoint or whatever.
No.
That's too much data. So you would then need to train a new model or something.
Yeah, well, we could, but what we do is we split up the content into less than 4,000 tokens parts.
Okay, so you...
Yeah, so they just released that you can upload files to ChatGPT. You can upload videos and as a context. And with the new beta for the plus version, if you pay. So you have disk space in every chat. So you can upload files, and then you can ask it to, can you modify this video in a certain way and discuss it? And either it can run FFmpeg tools for encoding, recoding, cutting, cropping, and it also it can execute code, so it can generate Python code that modifies the file you have uploaded, and then give you a result, and then it will give you the link to the output of that file. So that limit is gone.
Well, it's still 25,000 token.
For
when
the question itself, but you can give it a whole spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Process this one.
Yeah. So you can. You can. The GPT-4 can also see both video and images. So you can ask it question about an image and tell it to do things about the image and so on. So yeah, it will process, but still the process is limited. It can create a script based on this 25,000 token, and this script can parse whatever big file you want. But if you want it to answer a question based on data, it's still the limit right now, what I know, 25,000 token. It can do things with files. That's really the cool thing. And yeah, video cropping or editing is one thing. You can just upload a file and tell it what to do instead of you learning the command. But you can use it in command line. So you just tell what you want to do it, and it spits out the command line, and you run it on your own computer.
About this that you're saying, I just had an idea. Like, could you, for example, give it a Figma design and say, can you do this for me in code?
I'm trying. I haven't made it, but I would be surprised if that's not possible in a week. Because the demo for GPT-4 was he took a paper and he drew how he wants the website, and he showed it to camera, and then he had the website done. So that was the demo for GPT-4. Looking on a paper, drawing, and like, make a website of this. And it understood and created a website. From hand drawing, yes. So if it's not possible to look at the Figmas by end of next week, then I would be surprised. That's next part. So yeah, no, but looking at the Figma and understanding what it sees, that's the cool part. It can understand what it sees, and then you can reason, tell it, okay, you looked at this Figma, please create React components, create CSS, or whatever you want it to do from this, based on this code we already have.
Have you played anything with the embeddings API from OpenAI, where you can extend by adding vector data to models?
Yeah, so that's what we use in our
that's
own.
what you do. Okay.
Yeah, so we create embeddings from our content, and then we
you store them yourselves, or you just upload them?
No, we store them ourselves.
Store them, yeah. Do you think that's going to be replaced by the retrieval plugins now, essentially, where you can interface through plugins instead of having your own?
You can use it if you want to use ChatGPT UI, but if you want to use your own UI or embed it in your own tools, then you will still write the code that uses their API.
Yeah.
No more questions.
Then that was it.
Can we ask for live data, like weather, for example?
With ChatGPT plugins, you can do that. And with Bing Chat, you can do that. And with our own AI, we can do that.
Somebody made like a weather app that's bad-tempered chatbot. Because that kind of plays into the strength of these two. Like Bing Chat is the only time you've ever seen you had an argument with a search engine about what day it is. So this is like a search engine where you can see what's the weather, and then you can have an argument about what the weather is.
So, yeah.
All right, good. Thank you so much, Sasha.
You're welcome.